David, it's good of you to come in. Thank you very much indeed for being with us today. You've been involved in this report that's looking at the representations of men in modern media. I just wonder, you've done pretty well out of modern manhood. So what do you think's gone wrong?
Hard to say. I've been talking for a long time about the suicide rates in young men, still the biggest killer of men under 44 or 47. So I knew there was something wrong, and has been for many years, and there didn't really seem to be a solution to it. There are opinions about why there are problems. One of my personal opinions is a lot down to social media. So when you've got unregulated information, and the form of, should we say, people like Andrew Tate, who are sort of pushing a very immature, I would say, and disruptive idea of masculinity onto vulnerable young men, then that's where the problem holds.
And when it comes then to the narratives that are being presented to young men, how do you look at them?
One of the key things is there's not enough narrative about good men. I'm asked to define in so many interviews, and which is why I sort of put my name to this cause. Suddenly everyone was asking me to define masculinity, which I thought was a very strange thing to have to define, because the idea of masculinity to me is quite broad. There's not sort of one thing that fits all, and a lot of the information, like Andrew Tate and a lot of other people on there, is pushing this very extreme form of masculinity, wrong form, and there's not enough good examples out there of good, kind men and the things they do. And
what do you think is the risk of that toxic, you said extreme version of what it is to be a man? What's the risk of that, do you think? One
of the stats was that from the report, 62% of young women are finding young men frightening, which is a very, very strange ideal that I personally don't see that. But is that something that's being pushed to young women on social media? And then the young men are feeling that. So you're again sort of polarising male and female again. And if you're isolating those two areas, young men are going to, as young men do and young people do, they are going to look for anyone who gives them attention, and they are going to focus on the wrong attention, which is the extreme sides of sort of the masculinity.
But you made your career as a model, becoming the most successful male model in the world. Maybe your success and the fashion industry has contributed to some of this and giving young men unrealistic ideas about body image.
Okay, you can say that. You could say, I could put a lot of models, including the female models, trained as much as athletes. Are you saying that's a bad role model? I don't really think it is. If you're saying, I've always sort of said my day starts with a 4-mile walk with my dog, and I'm in the gym, and that is my way of sort of protecting my sort of mental well-being a lot of the time. When people say to me, are you producing an image that is unachievable? I don't think so. I didn't look the way I do. It's hard work to train, and I don't always want to do it, but it's dedication, and I don't mind young men having a dedication to anything. I think that's good.
The report basically puts forward that these two competing sort of cliches, you either have the good guy who's a bit useless and a bit hapless, or the guy who's really hardcore, the sort of hardcore hero who might behave in a sort of brutish way. So what's the other side of the lens? I know you yourself have a bit of a beef with Peppa Pig's dad. I know you've got young daughters, but the dad often persuaded someone who's a bit useless, who needs the mum to come in and sort everything out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sort of report, it talks about media and film and TV, how the masculine roles are being sort of taken over by women, and I don't think that's quite true in some. I think there's a good balance, and there should be a good balance. The Peppa Pig is an example. You're reading it and I'm probably from a man's point of view saying, well, actually, why are my children, when I'm reading this to my book, and the dad is a useless fool? But there's plenty of good examples in films and on TV.
Do you think there's a risk in this debate, though? And I know there's a phrase that's used several times in the report talking about provider, protector. Some people might hear that language and think, oh, hang on a minute, is this for people who want to wind back the clock and think that it's the man who should provide and the man who should protect, and somehow women's freedoms should be rolled back because men are having a hard time?
I do understand that point of view, and that's something we're trying to avoid. I think all parents have to take certain roles, and every parent and every situation is different. People look at me and they say, well, when we look at you, you seem to define masculinity. And then I say, how? And they say, well, in fact, you're into your cars, your classic cars, your suits, your watches, you're a skier, you're this big figure. I said, yes, but I do the washing, I do the cleaning, I do the school run. That wouldn't be deemed as masculinity. You see, our roles have changed. We are the first generation, I believe, my age, where we're seeing that dads do have to take on a different role. My wife's a barrister. I certainly wouldn't mess with her. So.
I was going to ask, who's in charge in the Gandy household?
That's an argument we'll have this evening.
David Gandy, thanks so much for coming to see us today.
Thank you.
It's been great to speak to you. Thank you.
Thanks.